So I'm on Instagram the other morning. And you guys know I've been on an Instagram diet, but I happened to pop on the other morning around 6 a.m. and got totally caught up in a creator's post. This is a trend that I've noticed. People are posting their controversial beliefs with a tagline of like, unfollow me if you don't like my beliefs, or this is what I believe, and this is what this account is about. Okay. Great. Everyone can believe what they want to believe. But what I'm noticing is that there's this intention behind it of wanting to stir people up, wanting to upset people. So, of course, all of these beliefs being very controversial, I go down into the comment section and there are thousands of comments, people saying, well, that's not what I believe. And I can't believe you believe that. I mean, it's actually kind of comical, right? Because when we look into the idea of beliefs, which is really a Gemini Sagittarius thing when we break it down, because these are the mental beliefs, the beliefs of the mind in terms of Gemini, and the beliefs of what we've been taught, higher level education, the philosophies, the religions in the case of Sagittarius. So beliefs belong to the humans. And here's the thing about beliefs, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what I believe, because beliefs are very subjective. They change over time. You know, I used to believe in fairies. When I was little, I would tell my dad elaborate stories about parties with the fairies and how the fairies were the ones that put on the sunsets. And I really believed that. And then as I got older, through conditioning, through what have you, I stopped believing in fairies. And now I have to say, I'm back in a place where I might just believe in fairies again. Certainly, I believe in the idea of elementals being energies that are out in nature, that are around us, even if we can't see them. So we have beliefs that end, that mature, that maybe begin again. Our beliefs are connected to our history, our culture, the way that we were brought up, what kind of religion we have running in our background, what our health has been like. Beliefs are very fluid and they are very unique. So that we should all believe the same thing is just so wild to me. And the idea that we have to get in and argue with other people about their beliefs is also like, wow, who has the time and energy for that? So I was laughing at myself because I probably spent an hour on this post just reading. First of all, I read this person's controversial beliefs, some of which I also believed and some of which I did not believe. And then I went into the comment section and just watched people go crazy. And it strikes me that this is a lot of what is happening in the world right now. We keep getting these controversial beliefs tossed in. So imagine if you've ever been on the ocean or at an aquarium or something and you're watching the sharks feed and they start throwing fish into the water and the sharks go crazy. Everything's thrashing around, there's water going everywhere, and it's total chaos. That's what's happening in the world right now. It is total chaos because everybody is arguing over different belief systems. Even if we just take the United States alone, if you don't live in the United States, you might look at Americans as being one big group. But if you live in the United States, you know that different regions are quite different from one another. My grandparents lived on the East Coast, and I remember visiting there every summer and being so shocked at how blunt people were. And then I lived in the South for several years, and everyone is so nice, but they will ream you behind your back. And then you go up to somewhere like Idaho, and everyone is quite taciturn and rather withheld. And of course, these are generalizations, but my point is that we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different ways of doing things. So you think of all of the different communities and culture around the entire world, and somehow we're supposed to all be in agreement. And if we aren't, we are like sharks in the water going crazy. And what a total distraction. And that shows up in the astrology this week. So I am Natha Perkins of Electra Astrology. This is my weekly half ahead astrology forecast. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you are on the podcast Star Narratives, welcome, and make sure you're following the show. I offer this forecast every week as a way to help you tune into the astrology through a psychological, spiritual lens. Really, I just want to help you to see yourself more clearly and talk through some of what's going on with the planets. So let's get into the charts. We're going to talk right off the bat about this full moon in the sign of Aries. So 14 degrees of Libra and Aries. It's in an exact square to the star Sirius. So if you remember back to Lion's Gate, all of the excitement about Lion's Gate, the 8-8 portal, related to the fact that that is when you can see Sirius rising in the sky before the sun. So you can look back to what you were going through middle-ish, early to middle-ish of August. And remember, this was energy where you were getting downloads. You were getting into some spiritual connection. So you might see some of that come back up again, whatever that was. Of course, we have a lot of stuff happening in Aries right now. We have Neptune, Ceres, the moon. We have Eris and Chiron as well. And I'm going to talk about that. But, this Aries influence of wanting to move forward and the sun holding that anchor in our relationships. And so when we're talking about always arguing with everybody, I believe this and you believe that, there's something egotistical about needing to share our opinions with everybody and needing to get validation for those opinions, even being willing to argue about those opinions. It's very Jupiterian to be like, I'm the smartest of all of you. I'm the most worldly of everyone. And I'm going to share. We do have Jupiter here in the sign of Cancer. Jupiter's exalted there, but it also stirs up our emotions, maybe too much. And Jupiter can come off as a big know-it-all, right? If I didn't ask you to teach me something, then are you really just giving me unsolicited advice? Right. And so I want to say, as I always do, you guys, as you're listening to this, I'm assuming you're coming here to listen to this. You feel into what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here telling you that what I'm saying is accurate. I'm definitely pulling some stuff from planetary archetypes, but I encourage you to always trust how information of any kind lands in your body. And so as you are also, I'm sure, on some level engaging with know-it-alls in your life, you can tune into your physical body and say, hey, does this feel right to me? Like, how does it feel? So for me, how did it feel to sit for an hour scrolling through people arguing in the comments? It felt awful. Why was I doing it? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. There's also this adrenaline hit that you get when you're watching people argue. So right now it's a time where we're really focused on bringing ourselves back into balance. That's the Libra influence here, because the Aries influence is going to be to want to fight, to say what we know and move into action and dominate people. And then, of course, the Jupiter in Cancer is blowing things out of proportion. Now, like I said, this is a week where we really want to watch ourselves. We really want to cultivate that sense of center, because it will be very easy to get pulled out of center because everything is so stirred up. It's human nature to want excitement and avoid boredom. And things where people are arguing, or there's some big event that happens, or some potential of disaster in the field, like, we get very attracted to that, even if when we logically think about it, we're like, ooh, yuck, I don't like those things. It's still very compelling. It's like watching two people get into a fist fight and you're like, what's happening? You want to run over and rubberneck. This is going to be another one of those weeks where it's going to be very appealing to rubberneck and slow down the proverbial car and see what happened in the accident. But the advice here is to pull back, find your center. We don't want to pull in something that's going to bring us down. So let me give you an example here. You have two bottles in front of you. One is crisp. You can see little bubbles floating to the top. It looks so delicious. On it, it has a label that said, this is going to make you feel excited. It's going to bring you a bunch of energy. It's going to make you feel relaxed. But when you drink it, hours later, it's going to make you feel sick. And then the other bottle is room temperature water. It says this won't do anything for you, but it will hydrate you. And you're like, which one do I want? Do I want the one that's ice cold and sparkly and I know it's going to make me feel good, but it's going to come with a hangover? Or do I want the water that's room temperature? A lot of us would probably pick the shinier bottle. And that's what I would compare to, like, scrolling social media, going out and having a bunch of cocktails, eating a bunch of sugar, doing online shopping, gossiping, all of these things that feel so exhilarating, but then drop us, versus the water, which is like my center. I've got to drink my water. It's not very exciting. It's just water, but I know that that's what's going to sustain me and that's what's going to hydrate me. So this is a week to drink that water. Do not get caught up in all of the drama of other people and their opinions and their beliefs, because beliefs don't matter, even if they tell you that they do. And there are so many outside forces trying to control the way that we think. Are your beliefs good? Do they make you a good person? Or do your beliefs make you a bad person? And with South Node in Virgo, we're moving away from that. Beliefs don't make you a good person or a bad person. It's your actions. Okay, so let's move on because we're looking at Mercury moving into Scorpio. Mercury is the mind. Right off the bat, as so many planets are doing over and over, it is making a square to Pluto and it joins into a yod with Neptune and Uranus. That's intense. When we have a yod on the planet of Mercury, which is how our mind works, how we think about things, how we communicate, it's incredible pressure. Mercury in Scorpio is already under some pressure because that is a blunt and defended mind. These are my beliefs. You're either with me or you're against me. And then we have the planets Uranus and Neptune pushing. That means those sharp, blunt beliefs, especially the beliefs that we're using as our defense. You know, if you're this religion, you're bad. If you like this politician, you're bad. And I like that politician, so that means I'm good. And I'm in this religion, and I use the word God instead of universe, so that means I'm good. There's so much complication right now around the outside forces telling us what to believe. And then our mind has to go into defense. And then if we're not careful, we're arguing. And when Neptune, the spiritual teacher, pushes on Mercury, the mind, it says, what are you doing? How do you know that all of this is not just an illusion? How do you even know what's true? And that's something to think about for all of us. How do we even know what's true? We can have a belief about something and it is based on essentially past experience, but it's not necessarily based on the truth. I remember when I was young, I ate Cool Ranch Doritos. I got the stomach flu that night. I threw up Cool Ranch. I decided I was never eating Cool Ranch Doritos again. I had a belief that Cool Ranch Doritos were disgusting. So what? Does that make it true? Don't think so. I think millions of bags of Cool Ranch Doritos are still sold, regardless of how I believe it, because of the experience that I had. So Neptune is really pushing on the mind this week, saying, how do you even know? How do you know that your beliefs are true? And then we have Uranus over here also pushing on Mercury, saying, maybe you want to rethink that. Open your mind a little bit. Try to see it differently. Don't believe everything you think. And so our Mercury mind is like, oh my God, my beliefs are what keep me safe, though. My beliefs are what make me know who I am. My beliefs bolster my ego. So we're under a lot of pressure, not to mention that there's a square to Pluto. And Pluto says, you need to look at your beliefs through the lens of the bad things that have happened to you. You have to look at the defenses that formed your beliefs. All right, so just know our minds are like, this week, but that's okay. We're holding our center. And by holding our center, I mean we are drinking the water. We are remaining in neutrality. We are taking deep breaths. We are coming back into the physical body in time and space right now. This is where my body is right now. My mind might be back in a situation 7 years ago, or it might be fast forward 2 years from now, but my body is right here. This is the reality that my body exists in right now. And that's what I mean by coming back to center. Now, right after that, the moon is going to meet with both Eris and Chiron. And then on the 8th, Chiron and Eris are exactly conjunct. So let's talk about that because Chiron is in the sign of Aries, which is all about our identity. And all of these beliefs that we have do help us to form our identity, right? Like one of my beliefs, I will take something herbal before I'll take something pharmaceutical because I believe in the power of herbs. Okay, great. That makes me somebody that is more holistically minded. Okay? That's just an identity that I carry. Are herbs better than pharmaceuticals? I don't know. You don't know. Sometimes, right? It doesn't really matter. We're all choosing what is true for us, but we're often choosing what is right for us based on some identity. And as Chiron has been traveling through Aries, we're looking at like, oh God, I have been wounded before when it's come to who I am. And now we have Eris here. Now, Chiron has been at 25 degrees for a while and Eris is there. So this isn't totally new energy, but they do have their exact conjunction this week. And if you remember, Eris is an asteroid, the goddess of war and discord. So the mythology of Eris goes something like this. She was not invited to one of the grand parties that the gods were putting on. And so she wanted to stir the pot. She wanted to start some trouble. In retaliation, she threw a golden apple into the ballroom, and on the apple was inscribed, "This apple is for the most beautiful goddess." So three goddesses get into an argument about who the most beautiful goddess is. So I don't even need to get deeper into the mythology. It's pot stirring energy. Somebody that says, these are my controversial beliefs. You can unfollow if you don't like them. That is pot stirring energy. And you are welcome to get into it, but this is a good week to work on staying out of it, especially as the moon is here in this mix as well. The moon is so sensitive and so emotional. This is a week where you could very easily get your feelings hurt if you're trying to get in and stir the pot. Imagine that you see a fight break out. And how many times have we seen this? A fight breaks out, somebody tries to get in the middle of the fight to break it up and gets punched in the face. Okay. So this is where we're like, oh, there's a lot of pot stirring energy this week. And I could choose to be in that, right? Because it's very seductive to get in there. I want to watch it. I want to see what goes down. I want to watch the arguments. I want to see people fight. But it's going to come with that hangover. It's going to come with feeling icky afterwards. So you guys have heard me say this, that paying attention right now as you're navigating the world, and especially things on the computer or on the phones, noticing how it makes you feel in your body. Things that make you feel excited and interested are a yes. Things that make you feel like you just got slimed, they're a no. And it really is more than just an invitation at this point. If you are somebody that is doing spiritual awakening and personal growth, you want to start getting really tight with what you allow into your field, with what you're bringing into your proverbial house. Like, would you let somebody track dog poop on their shoe into your house? No. You would make them take their shoes off at the door before they walked in. And we want to be doing that all the time. We don't want to let heavy, dark, dreary, draining energies into our field when at all possible. And that includes anything that's going to make you feel drained, disenchanted, icky, angry, or fearful. And we can't avoid it all the time, but when it does show up, we can very quickly say, nope, get out. Go put those shoes on the front porch before you walk in here. So on the 9th, we're watching Venus then move into this quincunx with both Chiron and Eris. Venus is one of the goddesses that got into the fight over the golden apple that Eris threw into the party. Venus has been struggling. Venus last week, if you remember, met with the South Node, and Venus is the part of us that wants to feel valued. Am I feeling valued because you're paying me for my services? Am I feeling valued because you're expressing your love to me? Am I feeling valued because you're telling me how beautiful I am? Am I feeling valued because I have enough money in the bank? Am I feeling valued just because I have self-worth and self-esteem? I mean, these are all Venus things. We want to feel value, and we look around in all these different places. And Venus meeting with the South Node was like, oh my God, I'm not valuable just because I'm doing stuff for people. All of my scurrying around and people pleasing and doing all this Virgo stuff is not making me feel valued. So we had to bump up against some of that last week. And this week, we see Venus come into a very difficult connection with both Chiron and Aries. So we're going to watch some of that same stuff come up. It's okay. When Chiron is there, there's always an invitation to heal. We have to look at that Eris part of ourselves that gets really jealous and, has a tendency to say, well, if you don't love me, screw you. Here's how I'm going to retaliate. And we have to look and say, what do I need in order to feel loved and valued? And it's going to come from the self, right? We don't always look outward to say, hey, how do you guys feel? Hey, do you guys love me? And that's another argument, in my opinion, against this whole, this is what I believe to be true kind of mentality, is this, I want reflection. Maybe I want attention. Maybe I want to sell a product. Maybe I want to stir the pot. Maybe I want all of you guys that agree with me to come out and stand behind me, and we're so intimidating because we all believe each other. Maybe I get a certain kick out of people disagreeing because I love to get in there and prove to people that I'm right and argue with people. There's a million reasons why we would want to trumpet our beliefs out to the world. But the question is, to what end? Why? So that it can boost our sense of identity? But that's false identity. Aries and the rising sign it's the posturing identity. This is how I want you to see me identity, which is really different from the sun, which is who I really am identity. And speaking of the sun, who I really am identity, the sun on the 10th comes into this quincunx, this inconjunct with the North Node. This one says, in order for you to know who you really are, you have to get quiet. You have to do that Pisces North Node thing of tuning in, shutting out the noise, drinking the water, creating the space, because otherwise it's all about posturing and how other people see you, which is not accurate as to who you really are. And then on October 11th, poor little Venus hits the opposition to Saturn. It's the same lesson. It's like your value is not going to come from what you do, and it's not going to come from getting the approval of people. It's going to come from your connection to your higher self, your connection with God, or whatever word you use to describe God. We also see on this day, October 11th, that Uranus has hit the 00 degree. So the 00 degree, Sabian symbol-wise of Gemini, is a glass-bottomed boat. So just think about that for a second. A glass-bottomed boat. What do we do on a glass-bottomed boat? Well, we're able to see things that we normally wouldn't be able to see, and we're able to look with depth into areas of our mind and of the collective that we can't usually see. Uranus is always pushing us to innovate, and in Gemini, it's innovating the mind. So this goes really nicely with this whole topic today of, do you really believe everything that you think is true? What if there are things that you never even considered? What if the world is different than you thought? So there's a call here, and Uranus will be perched at 0 degrees for a while. But there is a call here to deepen your awareness beyond appearance. If I was going to leave you with any advice, really work on holding that center point, that equilibrium that can actually be boring, but very useful. And challenging yourself to not get so embroiled in everything that you believe. This is a time where it's good to question. With Neptune working on these final degrees, right about to head back into 29 degrees of Pisces, the illusions are huge. Nothing is what it seems. We might as well be in an enchanted forest right now, with as much as we can prove whether this news story is true, whether this list is accurate, whether this belief is real. There is no way of knowing what is real and what is true, except tuning into your physical body and listening to yourself. This is what feels true right now without getting attached to it. It doesn't need to become some cemented belief system that says, I'm right and you're wrong. We all get very distracted in the arguments. And where is the tolerance? Where's the common ground? Where are we going to be able to come together to be stronger? Where's the sense of community when we're all tending to our own little fires of discontent, of beliefs, of anxiety, of desire? All right. I hope this was helpful, and I shall see you all for the Libra Aries axis next on Astrology for Awakening.